Welcome to the Dear Rochester Retire Well podcast with David Pulcini from 6 Point Financial Partners. In this podcast, find your path towards a brighter financial future with David as your guide as he helps individuals, educators, and healthcare professionals explore ways they can build wealth while minimizing risk using a multifaceted, comprehensive approach to personal finance. Are you ready to take the first step towards a brighter financial tomorrow? Let's get started.
Ladies and gentlemen, today we have a special one for you as we continue our series on the 6 points of financial planning. The 6 points are, as a reminder, and by the way, that's where our name came from: investment planning, risk management, retirement income, tax planning. Today we are covering some estate planning, and the next episode will be on some custom goal planning, things that we've seen. So today we have Neil Lyons coming to us all the way from the Sarasota area in sunny Florida. Neil, how are you doing today, man?
It's doing good today, Dave. It's going to be a high 80. Anybody up there in Rochester feel like coming down? They don't have to have any other excuse other than to hear that, I'm sure.
I guess it depends on when they listen to this, right? So.
Oh, that's true. I mean, if they're listening to it in the summer, they're going to be like, okay.
It's January 7th, by the way. The recording of this is January 7th, 2022. So there we go, Neil.
It's a beautiful day, Dave. Thank you so much for having me on.
So we can tell you're from Florida, and some folks will ask why I have a guy from Florida as a guest on Dear Rochester Retire Well. So I'll tell them now. People are moving to Florida. They're moving all over the place, but it's a lot of people's retirement goal is to move. They need to update some documents, which I want to cover. They're retiring, they're snowbirding to a different state. Again, it doesn't have to be Florida, but how long have you been in Florida, Neil?
Since 1995.
95. So you've been around a while. What are you seeing as far as like people moving down? Is it as crazy as what we hear?
I don't think I've ever seen so many out-of-state plates, Dave. It's definitely grown quite a bit.
Yeah. Where are they coming from? Where are those plates you see?
New York, absolutely. New York a lot. Massachusetts, pretty much the Northeast.
Yeah. But Neil, the schools are bad. There's hurricanes, there's alligators, there's weird snakes. What do you say to those folks?
If you could brave through all that stuff, it's going to be a really nice place to live. You know, there's nothing like waking up and seeing what looks like a dinosaur on your front yard, but it's really just an alligator. Need I say, I don't think I'm legally, as a lawyer, I always have to watch out for these things. I don't think I'm legally responsible if I don't tell people this, but I'm going to say it anyways. Don't approach alligators if they're in your front yard. Call the authorities. You don't want to lose an arm or anything like that. But no, Dave, actually, I have been here since, as I told you, I've been here since 95. I have never seen personally a venomous snake. The only time I've ever seen a venomous snake here in Florida is at the zoo. So, no, it's beautiful. The hurricanes, they're few and far between. It's no big.
I'm just telling you, from New York, that's what we hear about.
Oh, I know.
Hurricanes,
listen,
alligators, yeah.
And the other thing I'm sure you guys heard about a lot in New York is Tom Brady. And if you move down here, you're going to be hearing about him even more, except this time you actually get to root for a team that he's on. So it's a win-win if you move down here.
So in Western New York, nobody will root for a team that Tom Brady is on, Neil. So let's move on, man. I've got you warmed up a little bit. Folks, if you can tell, if I get Neil warmed up, we'll never stop. So Neil, let me start with this because of the amount of people moving. They're northeast of Florida, and we'll just use Florida as the example because that's where your practice is. What should someone do to update their documents, number one? And when I say documents, what documents are we talking about? And I'll ask you any questions that might get a little complicated.
Not a problem at all, Dave. So when you're talking about estate planning documents, estate planning being one of the points on the 6 points, we're talking about it could be anywhere from a typical will, standard last will and testament, or even a revocable trust. And then there, of course, you have a myriad of other kinds of trusts, such as irrevocable trust, which is probably too much to get into for this podcast. But nevertheless, revocable trusts, it can include irrevocable trusts, last will and testament, and then you have, as part of an estate, a comprehensive estate plan, we're going to be talking about what we call advanced directives. Those are the items that you hear about often, that your clients probably hear about often: durable powers of attorney, healthcare surrogate designation, living will, throw in a HIPAA authorization. So, like as I said, it could be anywhere from a trust to a last will and testament, and then those advanced directive documents that I just talked about. That would be those documents in and of themselves, those bare bones documents, are what would comprise an estate plan.
So I do have a lot of clients that have moved or are moving. two different states. If somebody does not update those things, what happens?
Well, as far as like negative consequences, one of the ones that I've seen on last wills and testament is certain states don't have what we have here, which is a homestead law, right? And homestead can include, caps on annual, real estate tax assessments. But one of the big things that homestead does is it prevents creditors from forcing you to sell your home, unless those creditors, of course, are secured creditors. When you do documents in another state, a lot of times, and I have plenty of new clients that are new, Florida residents, they come in and they say, I look at their documents and it says, I direct my executor to sell my primary residence and distribute those proceeds to my beneficiaries. If you move down here and you have a will that has that, it actually wipes out creditor protections during probate. It could subject your real property to creditor claims. So that's one of the things I look for. One of the first things I look for when I see a resident from up north come down, I look at that. I look at the distribution clause in their will to find out whether they've said yes, whether they direct their executor to sell the home.
Okay. So I mean that's one example, but let's take a quick step back because I kind of just dove into it right there. What got you into law in the first place?
Oh, you want to go into
let's
my
take a step back.
That? Oh, okay, sure.
You got to build some credibility here, Neil. I could have anybody on reading this off of the Google, right? So let's. Well,
I've been doing that actually. No, so what got me into law in the first place? Interestingly enough, I to be as candid as possible, I went into law because I wanted to have a nice car. I thought that was the pathway to have a nice car.
Yep.
It was as simple and materialistic and silly as that, and then obviously that developed into. And I actually really kind of enjoyed doing, going through law school and doing it. And what actually got me into elder law is I was actually volunteering in 2014. I was volunteering at a legal aid society because the job market still was a little tough. And I had called an old friend of mine because I had a question about guardianships. And him and his father had their own firm together with another attorney. And I asked him questions about a pro bono guardianship I was trying to help somebody out with. And he said, "Oh, what are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm just volunteering." And he said, "Well, we have room for another attorney over here. Would you be interested in doing elder law?" And I said, "Yes." And by volunteering at a legal aid society, I actually got into elder law. And that was about 7-8 years ago.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, many people that I talk to, including myself, almost fell into something because they wanted to make a bunch of money or they wanted something. Some material item, and that's then right. Afterward they developed a passion for it.
That's exactly what happened. And very when you're 26, 27, you think of the world in that way. At least I did.
Yeah, my wife got me into financial planning. I don't know if you know that she was interning in an office and she said they make a lot of money and they don't do anything. And I was like, I was 22 years old. And I'm like, I'm in. Yeah, absolutely. Then as you study and get better and become better at your profession, you get more passionate about certain things. So
wow, that's right. Yeah, well, my part of my story too, I'm glad you mentioned your wife. Is my wife thought that it would be that I would do well at it. And if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be able to do this. I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing. So I mean, yeah, same for me. That's also part of it as well.
So you mentioned elder law. When someone hears that, I'm just thinking as the average listener, I'm thinking of just, for lack of a better way to say it, we don't have too many podcast listeners in this age group. I'm just thinking of really old people. What is elder law?
Well, essentially, it does deal with those individuals that are elder, right? And usually, comprehensive elder law is as part of the practice. It includes guardianship. I believe they call it in New York if it's guardianship, the property conservatorship. It also includes estate planning, and it includes conducting probate administration. The other issue is public benefits, right? So Medicare, Medicaid, that's one of the essential elements of it is advising clients on Medicaid eligibility for long-term care, helping clients with the Medicare yep. benefits, Medicare A, B, C, et cetera. Yep. Helping clients figure out, in conjunction with a financial advisor such as yourself, David, how much money, let's look at what we're going to do when it comes time to go into an assisted living. How much money should we have set aside? It actually, you know, what kind of estate plan should I have to help facilitate that? It all goes into it. It's more of a description rather than a definition.
Right,
So,
right. Well, it makes sense. I mean, again, you can get into that all day, but one of the things that when we're working with a client is, and this is the reason I said elder, is if somebody's 40 years old with 3 children, they still need to take care of their estate planning stuff.
agreed.
So just basic things. So if we have a 35 or 40-year-old listener, I could say for anybody should have a basic estate plan. Like what should those people do in general? And I know this is complete general advice. This does not
Sure.
constitute legal advice, Neil. This does not.
Uh,
We're going to hear it again at the end. We'll probably say it at the beginning. I'll keep saying that to make sure you're out of trouble, right?
That's right. I'm an attorney, right? You know, it happens to be the new year, and I can wish you, David, but in no way guarantee you a happy new year. And that's how it goes. Let's just say you have a couple of clients who are in their 40s, right? I'm always going to say, you know, the general advice to individuals in that category is, you know, have your will lined up, have your durable power of attorney lined up, have your healthcare surrogate lined up, have your living will lined up. But if you have children, if you have minor children, that's where the estate plan actually earns its money. You know, that's where the estate planner actually earns its money. And sometimes as an estate planner / elder law attorney, you have to navigate between spouses. Who is going to care? God forbid, you know, you and your missus, if you guys ever get an opportunity to go away, I know you probably don't that often, but you know, and God forbid something happens to you, who's going to care for your children? You know, and there are obviously those family dynamics, which sometimes the clients hash out right in front of you, the attorney, you know, where, well, your mom doesn't like this, my mom, and how is my mom going to see the kids? You know, all those things are things to think about. Of course, nobody wants to think about what would happen if a plane goes down, because it just doesn't happen that often. But, you know, most of what for 40-year-olds, the issue is really, and with minor children, the issue is who's going to care for your minor children. And all those things can be accomplished in preneed guardian designations for minors and guardian designations in your will. And those can be accomplished through those devices, those estate planning devices.
A quick interruption. 6 Point Financial Partners is taking on new clients. If you would like to take the next step in planning your future with Dave or the 6 Point team, please visit them at www.6pointfp.com to schedule a time or reach out via LinkedIn, Facebook, or simply find us on the internet by searching 6 Point Financial Partners. Okay, back to the show.
If I'm listening to this, I'm like, holy cow, this seems like a lot of stuff. And this is what I try to tell people. I was like, because it sounds so complicated. Your healthcare proxies, your powers of attorney, your will, and you called it the surrogate, like
Healthcare surrogate, sure.
the healthcare. So how much time does this take? Because this is on everybody's to-do list. I'm serious. Almost everybody that I meet with, it's like, yeah, we've been meaning to do that, or hey, I'm in the middle of that, or I've been meaning to update that. How much time does somebody have to actually spend? And I know the answer to this, but I want them to hear it from you. Like, how much time do they have to spend to just get this done and get it over with?
So I would say, you know, no more than, you know, the client themselves sitting down with the attorney and then reviewing documents, which I always encourage my clients to do before they sign anything.
Yep.
You know, total of 3 hours tops, you know, between meeting with me. Now, some may want to spend more time. You know, if you're asking me, you know, there's 2 different categories, it sounds like, David, that you're asking me about. One is, I want to get this done. How long does it take? 2.5 to 3 hours, right? And then you have another client who says, you know, I'd want to get it done, and I don't mind it taking me that long. So that can be as long as they want. But for those that I think that you're looking to target, David, those that are saying, oh God, I really don't want to do this, and you know, but I have to, 2.5, 3 hours tops.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I love the people that want to go do it.
They're my favorites.
Yeah, I'm just going with the majority, right? It's like,
yeah. Oh no. Yeah. Yeah. That's who we're targeting here. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's who we're thinking about.
And you know this, once you see, and for the listeners out there, once you see that when this stuff is not done, what happens on the other side, God forbid, it's like, it's really hard for me not to go out there and be like, I'm going to drive you to an attorney's office to get this done, which I can't do. But anyway, it's so important. It's one of those things you don't need it until you need it. And then everybody has horror stories. I mean, there are, and you think that people are all set. And I can give you a number of famous people, right, that did not have their estate planning stuff in order. Their spouses didn't get what they would have wanted them to. Their kids didn't get what they wanted them to get. And what happens then is it goes basically by the state, right? So whatever the state decides to do, in a way, and then it becomes long and dragged out, and it's a process that if we would have just taken 2 to 3 hours to get this done, we almost don't have to think about it again. I know you need to update it, but you almost don't have to think about it. So
That's right.
what does your average client look like? We're just talking about two different subsets, I would say, but what is the average person that comes in? Like, who are you typically working with?
I'm actually, Dave, the majority of people I'm getting now, more than I'd say 60%, a rough estimate, is individuals that have moved down from up north and they have existing documents and they want them reviewed, which, we do complimentary, and or individuals that have moved down and say, you know what, I've been thinking about this a long time. I want to get it done. So transplants, people that are leaving the Northeast, and it's typically the Northeast, and they're moving down here and they're saying, hey, I'm looking for somebody to be, and they're actually looking to establish an attorney-client relationship down here. So that's the typical client, somebody moving down from the Northeast looking to establish themselves here, who have existing documents and need them reviewed.
So is that who's the best fit for Neil and his firm? Is that really what you were looking for as far as working with people?
I mean, I could talk to anybody that's looking forward to doing estate planning, but yes,
Right,
that's the ones that, I mean, those are the individuals that, people that are moving down here and looking to have their documents reviewed. Yes, those individuals are exactly who we're looking to serve. I mean, we're looking to serve anyone who wants help, obviously, but that's the individuals that are most likely going to be calling here are those that are moving down and need their documents reviewed. Exactly.
So, and I would love to get this question from a financial standpoint. So I'll give you a layup here. If these people are listening right now and they've just moved from Illinois, New York, wherever it is, and they're now in your area, and you could tell them anything you wanted to without them giving you like a rebuttal, what unsolicited advice would you give those people right away? You can say anything you want.
If you have documents, give us a call and we'll review those documents for you. Absolutely.
So an interesting fact about Neil, tell us a little bit about your firm.
Our firm's motto is law powered by women. Julie Luhrsen and Christina Goldberg are my managing partners here, and they're both personal injury attorneys. And I do the elder law side of things here.
So how do you fit into that firm, Neil?
Quite well, actually.
Give me a story of where you have seen something that has gone wrong and how it easily could have been avoided, if that makes sense.
I remember the one, the attorney, was it Jerry that you had on before?
Yep. Jerry.
He had mentioned,
yep.
Yeah, he was Jerry was great to listen to. He was talking about somebody who didn't change their beneficiary designations on life insurance. That luckily that has not happened to me. What did happen though is I had somebody who wanted a probate. It had, the person had already passed away, and they had done exactly what I said happened. They had directed their executor. We call it, down in Florida, we call them personal representatives. They're from New York, and they directed their executor to sell their primary residence. They didn't give them the option to do it. They didn't say they may do it. They required them to do it. You shall sell my primary residence and distribute the proceeds, right? Well, they also had quite a few creditors and not a lot of liquid assets. So guess what? That house had to be sold, and those proceeds got to get gobbled up by those creditors. Had they just come in, we could have fixed that. We could have drafted them up a new will, and we could have just left the primary residence, the homestead, as we call it in Florida, to their relatives, and they wouldn't have had the problem with creditors, most likely. Again, Dave and I say that. I realize it's easier said than done, but could play havoc for beneficiaries if you don't have that lined up.
Oh yeah. And listen, this is, again, it just goes back to just take an hour or 2 to 3 hours in your case, just to get it done right away. And then on average, 30 minutes to an hour a year, just to say, is this still what we want? And it's like that with financial planning. We review and have strategy meetings with our clients just to stay on top of it. And some people truly want to set it and forget it, right? And then know it's done, which in your world in estate planning is actually, sometimes that's okay. Not all the time, but
sometimes it is okay. I would tell you this too, Dave. Before this pandemic, 98%, 95, it's close to 100% as you could possibly get of my consultations with estate planning clients were face-to-face. Reverse that number almost now. It's like 80, it's 4 out of 5 are now done via Zoom, done by telephone call. It's actually a lot easier than it was before to do it. And the attitudes have changed. People's attitudes have changed. They've become they're more tolerant.
One positive, if anything, of this pandemic, if there is a positive, is that I think it fast forwarded our entire culture.
And we've
years.
learned to work smarter, and
Yeah.
we've learned to work smarter, and they're more tolerant to actually to meeting electronically now rather than face to face. I mean, Dave, you're probably like me. I'm old fashioned. I like to meet people. I like to shake hands and
Definitely
be face to face and talk, because you build that personal rapport with people. But hey, I'm not going to tell people no, they can't have a consult with me unless they come face to face, because that's not good customer service,
Right. And I mean, again, you've got grandparents. I'm not picking on the grandparents out there, the older grandparents that all of a sudden had to figure out FaceTime and Zoom and whatever it might be to talk with a lot of their family members. So it fast forwarded the professional world too. Even this podcast, right? Somewhat as a result of that, or we're doing videos to our clients now. Like, it's awesome, but I don't know if we would have done that without all of this other stuff happening. So if there was a positive, that would be the positive. I've got one more question for you, and then I'll let you go, Neil. I know you're a busy guy. I know you don't charge by the hour, by the way. So, and you and I could talk all day about this. So,
we indeed could.
And it's a good thing, because if you charge by the hour with the amount that you talk, it'd be a very expensive meeting with Neil.
It truly wouldn't be fair to the estate planning clients. It really wouldn't.
So I've had this happen a number of times, and I'm not sure if you caught this in the last episode on our estate planning, but I have had, because I'm the advisor on a number of accounts, where the beneficiary in somebody's will does not match the beneficiary, let's say, on their Roth IRA. Most people think, and I guess I'm just looking for a yes or no at the end of this, most people think that the beneficiary on the will overrides the beneficiary on the account. And until somebody passes away, and then the kid, I've had this happen. The kids have said, no, it says in the will that Roth IRA should go to me 50%. But on the beneficiary designation, it's got it going to an ex-spouse. Who gets that money in Florida?
That's the ex-spouse.
That's right. So
now it depends. Yeah. I mean, it's simple based on that scenario. Yeah. That's a scenario, right? Beneficiary designations are the best, what I like to call probate avoidance devices. Those assets typically will never see the light of a probate administration courtroom ever, because they pass outside of probate. So, right. and I just put out a quick blurb for the new year. One of the New Year's resolutions for all my clients is to check your beneficiary designations, make sure they're up to date, make sure everybody that's on there, if it's not your spouse, in Florida, typically, if you have a retirement account, the beneficiary needs to be a spouse. But if your spouse has passed away or you weren't married, make sure that anybody that you've listed as a beneficiary is still alive, and change it up too.
Yeah,
that's right.
So it's interesting. I've had a few people actually say, well, you're a financial advisor. What do you have to do with estate planning? And I'll tell
everything.
You, I know. Well, I'm glad you say that. And I didn't know you were going to. The integration is, and the overlap is tremendous, where we're talking about beneficiaries and taxes that you may owe and how they pass and how to do it efficiently, and also your goals for your children and your grandchildren. What do you want to leave behind? And then the attorneys do the same, but then actually execute and do the document. So we take it as far as, I know the goals, I understand that, I know who we want the beneficiaries to be, but I'm not an attorney, so I don't actually do the documents that make that happen. And that's how we work with attorneys as advisors. So many times we'll get calls from attorneys that say, hey, can you make sure the beneficiaries on your accounts match what we just put in the will? So we'll just call that beneficiary coordination. So that's all taken care of behind the scenes. After.
That's right. I like that. I like it's been beneficiary coordination. Something, and obviously sometimes there are, clients have reasons why those won't match up, but typically, as you're saying, they're going to match.
Yep. I love it. So, all right, Neil, I'm going to let you go. How can our listeners get in touch with you, or where can they find you on social media? Or you said you did a blurb on beneficiaries. Was that just an email to your clients? How can we find you?
That gets uploaded to our firm, Luhrsen Goldberg, on Facebook. That's Luhrsen, and then Goldberg, Goldberg. And then there's Luhrsen Law Powered by Women.com. There's also, they can email me directly at ntl@lginjuryfirm.com, or they can call the firm 941-212-2600. All those ways are good ways of finding out about us and contacting us directly.
Well, Neil, you must be a good man, a patient man, working with the firm powered by women. I'm sure we all appreciate it.
I got to be honest, they're patient with me, so I'm actually the one that's lucky here.
I would have never
I'm the
said
lucky
that
one,
on a
actually.
podcast. I know that.
No.
No doubt about it.
I know you wouldn't.
But Neil, we appreciate it. Thank you for your advice. Folks, reach out to Neil if you need any help. If you're planning on moving to Florida, let us know. Obviously, we can help with that. We have connections all over the place in many different states. But for now, Neil, appreciate your time. And
Thank you, Dave.
You got it, Neil. And ladies and gentlemen, make it a great day.
Thank you for listening to the Dear Rochester Retire Well podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of 6 Point Financial Partners. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.
Securities offered through American Portfolios Financial Services, Inc., APFS, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through American Portfolios Advisors, Inc., APA, an SEC-registered investment advisor. 6 Point Financial is not affiliated with APFS and APA. This material is for informational purposes only. Neither APFS nor its representatives provide tax, legal, or accounting advice. Please consult your own tax, legal, or accounting professional before making any decisions.